This season has felt like it went by so fast. And in terms of the content, it's actually been my favorite season so far. So the question is, can we top it? Cans on. Okay, Heart of the Dragon. Heart of the Dragon. It's making me think Iron Fist, but we did just have symbiote dragons. There's more. There's multiple dragons, actually, in Marvel. You know, could it be... No, they wouldn't do that, would they? Because that would be crazy. Whoa! I have never seen...
The devil doesn't kneel before false.
Angela? And she's looking so jacked? Like, I know Angela's jacked, but dang. Muscle mommy. And Daredevil. Yo, this animation is amazing. So are we doing like a fight between like heaven and hell type vibes? He is the man without fear. Okay. That's it? While this trailer is very interesting, it does touch upon one of the biggest issues I've had with Rivals kind of since the beginning of the game. But before we get into that, let's just talk about what we just saw. There's a lot of details in this trailer that I want to talk about, and I think the primary takeaway for me is obviously I kind of picked up on this idea of, you know, heaven versus hell, Angela representing heaven, Daredevil representing hell. There is also the yin and yang that we see here. We have, you know, Daredevil's dragon, and we have Angela with the tiger, so that is coming from Chinese mythology. I'm not as well versed in Chinese mythology, so if this is something that you're really hyped about and you're excited about, please do let me know more in the comments, because I would love to get as hyped as you, but it's something that I'm newer to. However, I do note that, you know, Angela, she basically calls Daredevil a name from Chinese mythology at the beginning of the trailer. Di Zong, guardian of the 8th city. And that is very specific. So Di Zong, to my understanding, is someone that shepherds restless souls sort of from hell. So is helping the dead to kind of move through that torment, which does seem pretty fitting for a character like Daredevil to be referred to as. And then the 8th city is something that actually did appear in Marvel Comics. I'm not sure of the story beyond, you know, in terms of what it represents from mythology, but the 8th city is basically a demon dimension that I think appears in Immortal Iron Fist, as was, I believe, its first appearance. And so Angela representing, you know, one of the 7 cities of heaven, sort of this other realm, kind of makes sense. And I'm wondering if it's going to play into that story at all, which is this idea that the demons kind of wanted to open a gateway and everyone had to band together to stop that. Iron Fist is also involved. I'm not as well versed in the story, but I do know of it. So I don't know if that's going to play into this or if we're just really doing something completely different here. I think that the looks of these characters are really promising. I like the style. I like the design. I like that we're doing something different. Ultimately, I think that's really cool. However, when it comes to stories like this, I do take a little bit of issue if we get too far away from the script. And while I love that Angela is here, and I'm also wondering if, I think there's like a green crow we see at one point in this, if that's going to be a reference to Angela's connection to obviously Odin. She is the daughter of Odin. She's Thor's sister, if you're not familiar with her. And she also is therefore related to Hela, and the green reminded me a little bit of Hela, Hela being the goddess of death, and this being a sort of heaven versus hell kind of split also makes sense that maybe, you know, Hela will also be involved in some way. There's also the hand that we notice over Angela's head, which it seems that Daredevil marks her with during their fight, which could be a representative of the hand from Marvel Comics. But all of this is to say still that I feel like this is not from anything particular that I'm familiar with from Marvel Comics, which doesn't mean that it isn't something. However, are we getting a little too far away from the Marvel side of things with this story? Maybe. This is something that I've taken issue with kind of throughout the seasons, and why I really liked season 3 a lot, because season 3 was actually a season where it felt like we were taking a lot from the comics, but still doing our own thing. The whole idea of having King in Black and King in Black versus Phoenix, that idea of Null versus Phoenix is literally taken from the King in Black event. They added some of their own stuff in there, and I mean, we got Blade in the mix, who I thought was going to appear when we got Dracula back in the first season, but then it was Dracula versus FF, which also was weird. And then when we went to Krakoa, and then it was Krakoa, but like Ultron's invading instead of Nimrod, I was like, okay, I guess, but that's my thing. It's kind of like, okay, I guess. And this trailer is like, you really gotta comb through, I feel, to get any idea for what the story is going to be beyond having these two characters clash. So I just wish there was a little bit more here for me to bite into. I think it's cool to do your own world. It's cool to do your own stories. And this is a multiversal world, so we can really do anything. But Marvel Rivals has also talked about wanting to kind of create their own characters completely outside of Marvel Comics. And I'm not sure how to feel about that, honestly. On one hand, I think it's a cool idea. On the other hand, I'm just like, but there's so much that we could take from, that we could play with. So I just don't know why you wouldn't do that. Like, I feel like we've barely scratched the surface for source material from Marvel. So to make up your own stuff when there's just so much to draw from, I don't know. I feel conflicted about it. I feel conflicted. And maybe I'm alone in this. Like, maybe everyone else is super hyped for this season. And if this story speaks to you, and if you love the mythological references here, then I'm hyped for you. And I hope that a lot of other people are hyped. It's been weird. It's been kind of a weird time with Rivals, just in terms of even matchmaking and stuff like that. A lot of people, I think, are getting a bit tired of Rivals, and it also has become a place that maybe isn't as friendly for newer players to jump into, which is a bit sad, because I do think adhering to the casual player is super important, and also just as valuable, because I personally always think of myself as more of a casual player than any kind of elite or professional player when it comes to a game like this. And I want to make sure there's spaces for my friends to come in that might also be casual, and for us to just have fun together and hang out. That's why I like online games like this, because it's just fun for community, you know? And so I think you lose a bit of that community. So for me, the reason I also came to Marvel Rivals is the Marvel aspect. So I just feel like the further we get from that sometimes, the less inclined I am to be hype. And that's just the reality. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Let me know what you're thinking of this down in the comments below. You know, do you like the idea of us creating more original stuff that can be incorporated into Marvel at large? Or are you more inclined to want to play games that take more from the source material and sort of just recreate it in a different way? What really is the draw for you, I guess, when it comes to Rivals? And what do you love about the game, and what do you think needs work? I want to know. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. If you like stuff like this from me, make sure you check out some of my other Marvel Rivals content over here. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye!